I've had a few hundred questions submitted down to the form in the link in the description below. And one of the things that continues to come up again and again and again are questions surrounding people feeling like they're lost. Right? We've got a ton of information out there. We're spending a lot of time studying and learning from probably the people that we should be learning from. But it doesn't take away from this feeling of being lost, not sure what to do next, not sure kind of what to do with your life. This continues to come up through the coaching sessions that I do with a lot of people on the YouTube channel. And like I said, many of us see that we have a ton of opportunity in front of us. We're spending time studying, we're spending time learning. We've learned a lot about habits, learned a lot about goal setting, learned a lot about focus, all these things that we think we need in order to be successful. But a lot of you, it's pretty obvious to me, are feeling like it might all be for naught. Like, what's the point of doing all of this if I'm going to continue to feel lost and not really sure where I fit in? This is honestly something that I've struggled with a lot up until honestly pretty recently when I started studying some of the really great authors on these particular topics, which we're going to talk about here today. This video is going to give you 5 steps that I think will help you find purpose, help you find kind of the feeling of knowing where you're going rather than feeling lost. So these are 5 points. These are the things that have helped me out. The first one is coming from Joseph Campbell, who I've been studying a lot recently, and he's studied this exact thing, finding your purpose and kind of understanding where you fit in the grand scheme of things for many, many years. From studying his work, one of the concepts that I've found is this idea of creating a sacred place. And I believe this is kind of the step number one. This is the foundation of what all meaning is built upon. And it's a necessary step that's not easy to take in finding your particular path in life. So let's look at this a little bit further here. We've got the sacred place. And he says this is an absolute necessity for anybody today. He says you must have a room, a certain hour or so a day where you don't know what's in the newspapers this morning. You don't know who your friends are. You don't know what you owe anybody. And you don't know what anybody owes you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is a place for creative incubation. And at first you might find nothing happens here. But if you have a sacred place and you use it, something eventually will happen. And the question that I came up with as I was reading this quote is, are you proactively creating this time for yourself? One very common theme among all of my coaching clients is something that we call quiet time. And honestly, it's exactly this. It's time that you set aside to forget about your goals, forget about your current situation, and forget about the voices in your head that are constantly scheming, constantly planning, constantly trying to figure out where you fit in the world because you feel lost right now. This time is going to allow you to tap into your true self, the self that is there, the self that is separate from the outside world. And that's the first most important foundational piece. And I think the reason that this can be so difficult is because of exactly what Joseph says inside of this quote. At first, you might find that nothing happens there. At first, you might find that nothing happens there. And that's my experience with quiet time as well. At first, there was a lot of just thoughts swirling around in my head, and I couldn't really make that much sense of any of them. But eventually, you start to notice patterns. Eventually, you start to kind of clear the fog and clear a lot of those intrusive thoughts. And you eventually can find the true self, the self that is at the center of everything, the self that is completely separate from outside influence, which is such an important piece of the process of feeling like you can find your own path. The process of getting unlost starts with starting with yourself and finding yourself. Now that's our first quote. Are you taking quiet time? Have you found your sacred place? That's the first checkbox. That's the first step. I do want to take a minute and tell you a little bit about the program that I'm using to summarize these notes and find the important pieces. I've got over 600 different ideas pulled out from over 100 different book summaries put into this personal development AI that you can sort into category and you can use to get the most out of your time learning. You can use it to answer these types of questions for yourself with ideas coming from some of the world's greatest authors on particular subjects, things like habits and goal setting and purpose. You can also get access to all of this personal development AI by clicking the first link down below in the description or clicking the big blue join button on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate you helping support the channel, and it helps me keep reading these new books, keep putting together this personal development AI for everyone here on the YouTube channel. The next point that I pulled out, and that has helped me a lot when I've felt lost, is coming from Tom Rath. And if you don't know who he is, I really recommend you go and check out his books that I've done on the channel, specifically Life's Great Question, which is where this is coming from. He's one of the most prolific, one of the most purpose-driven people that I've ever studied. And I think that's why the book that he has, Life's Great Question, is just so good. When he speaks, I'm going to listen. And the most powerful concept that we've probably talked about here from Tom is this idea of what can I contribute, or asking life's great question. And one of the ways that I've had coaching clients work through this is by writing actually a full page of what they think is wrong in the world. So let's look at what can I contribute first. He says knowing who you are and who you are not is essential, but it's only the starting point. So quiet time, finding your sacred place is the starting point. All the talent, motivation, and hard work in the world will not be valued or remembered if it doesn't help another human being. He says a growing body of evidence suggests that the single greatest driver of both achievement and well-being is understanding how your daily efforts enhance the lives of others. He says, think about that. Work can actually improve your health and well-being. Work can also be about doing something each day that improves your relationship with the family and the friends that you have. I believe that we all inherently know this, which makes the gap between what we're currently contributing and what we have the ability to contribute all the more frustrating. And that's one word that continues to come up inside of these coaching calls and in the questions to the form down below is I'm feeling frustrated. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm stuck in a place. And Tom says, what can I contribute is the way out. He talks to us about how actually work, career, can help contribute to our well-being. And often I think we get stuck in a pattern where it feels like going to work is a chore, and it feels like it can be kind of degrading our mental health, which I'm not saying, certain jobs might not be doing. But one of the things we want to keep in mind is career is such a big part of our lives. I mean, at least 30% of your time is probably spent at work. And if you look at it truly, probably 50% of your time is spent thinking about work. So it's so important to get the career piece of your life right. And one of the ways that I have had these coaching clients work through it is writing a full page on what they think is wrong with the world. So often the question, what can I contribute, is difficult to answer because you don't really know what you can contribute based on the skills that you currently have, based on your past experience. There's honestly kind of an infinite amount of things that you could do, and it's hard to know what specifically you can contribute. So a really good way to get started with it is by writing down all the things that you think are wrong in the world. And this page is going to give you dozens of things that you think need to be solved. Maybe it's things that are close to you. Maybe it's things in your personal relationships. Maybe it's things at the place that you already work. Maybe it's something on a bit of a grander scale. You're thinking about maybe the environment or the way that entrepreneurship is kind of gated for people. There's a lot of different things out there in the world that need to be solved. And the great thing about this is it is very specific to you. You've got your own life experiences, you've got your own story, and what this page of things that you think are wrong with the world is doing is helping you connect to the things that you think need to be solved. So after you found that, what can I contribute is a lot easier to answer. And Martin Seligman is really the godfather of positive psychology, and he has a great point here about finding your calling. So let's talk about the calling first. He says, if you can find a way to use your signature strengths at work often and also see your work as contributing to the greater good, you have a calling. So there's 3 different types of work orientation. He says there's a job, a career, and a calling. So a job is punching the clock for a paycheck, and that's what a lot of us are feeling like we're stuck in. Specifically, some of my coaching clients, they're maybe even very successful in the careers that they currently have. But what ends up happening is they feel like they're punching the clock. They're not connected to that what can I contribute piece. Skipping ahead, he says calling is a passionate commitment to work. So any job can become a calling, and any calling can become a job. A physician who views the work as a job is simply interested in making a good income, does not have a calling. While a garbage collector who sees the work as making the world a cleaner, healthier place could have a calling. So, with that distinction in mind, the distinction between job and a calling, we need to look at your signature strengths. This is a piece coming from Martin Seligman again, these ideas of signature strengths. And he says, for most of us, we know what we're bad at. We know only what we're not good at. And we need some more, we need kind of like to spend some time going forward and thinking about what are the strengths that we have? What are the ways that we maybe stand out from the crowd? There's real power in knowing your strengths and choosing to use them to help you make decisions. I mean, research has shown that more successful people are not those necessarily with the highest GPAs or IQs, but it's people who know who they are and what they're good at. And then they choose to spend their time doing those things, spending just enough time to make sure their weaknesses don't come back to bite them. Now, Martin Seligman has a whole website dedicated to helping you find your strengths. I don't have the link inside of the document here, but I will put it down below in the first comment. So if you're interested in going to find your signature strengths and figuring out, okay, I know that I need quiet time. I need to separate myself from the influence of the outside world. That's the first step. The second step is, what can I contribute? What's currently wrong with the world, and what can I get behind contributing to make that better? The third piece might be, okay, I know what's wrong with the world, but how do I fit in? How do I fit in with contributing to hopefully getting rid of or hopefully solving that thing that I think is wrong with the world? And that's signature strengths. So I'll put that link down below in the description for you. We've got this kind of separation from calling as well. We want to remember that. We want to make sure that we're spending time finding our calling and not just pursuing a career. The next piece that we want to talk about is really an underscoring of these previous points. Specifically, what can I contribute? And what I wanted to point out is that this path isn't going to be easy. Even though I've laid it in a simple step-by-step process that I think can help, Joseph Campbell would tell us that there's a hero's journey, and that a hero, at the end, they give their life to something bigger than them. And this is going to be true in every sense of the word. But really, if we've only got one chance, and we're only going to live one life anyways, what could be better than finding a worthy cause to dedicate our lives to? What could be better than dedicating our lives to a worthy cause? That's something to think about. We want to spend time connecting to that worthy cause, and it's going to help you push through some of the harder parts of this journey. When you found your signature strengths, you found what you can contribute, there might be a big gap in between what you think you can contribute and what you actually have the power to do for quite some time. So I think it's very important to spend time connecting. We've only got this one chance. What could be better than finding a worthy cause? A hero gives their life to something bigger to them. We want to be the heroes of our own journey. If you're having trouble connecting to that, I really recommend you go and check out a book that I've done called The Alter Ego Effect. A really good way to frame this, a good way to view this idea of being the hero of your own story. The final piece that I wanted to leave you with, I think, is really bringing us full circle. And I started off with quiet time, finding your sacred place. The second piece, the last piece here, I should say, is that everything is going to be a lot harder if you're hard on yourself. And if there's one thing you're going to find through finding your sacred place, is how judgmental your inner voice is. It's how hard on yourself you can really be. Harder than any other person you would put up with. I mean, we say things to ourselves on a minute-by-minute basis that we wouldn't put up with if someone else said them to us. So it's very important to understand this idea of being your own best friend. And the concept of yourself equals positive is coming from Joseph Campbell again. It's going to serve you really well on this journey. It's going to create a positive feedback loop for your own success. And it's something That sounds a lot easier than it really is. He says that Ramana Krishna once said, "If all you do is think of your sins, then you're a sinner." And when I read that, I thought of my boyhood, going to confession on Saturdays, meditating on all the little sins that I had committed during the week. Now I think one should go and say, "Bless me, Father, for I have been great. These are the good things I have done this week." And identify your notion of yourself with the positive rather than with the negative. So I talked about awareness being the beginning, and then shaping action is the start. And so many of us are living in this constant barrage of just judgment from the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep. And the worst part about it is our minds are so powerful, they're replaying the things that we're saying, the judgments, the things we did wrong, thousands of times, thousands and thousands of times every single day. They're constantly picking out and replaying these misdeeds that we've done. And one of the things that I'll leave you with is that really any way to live? Now, you've spent time finding your sacred place. You've asked life's great question. Maybe you found things that you could contribute. You've got this idea of finding a calling instead of letting your life be kind of thrown away, in a sense, to just a job. And one of the ways that you can really double down on what you can contribute is by using your signature strengths, which I'll link down below. The path isn't going to be easy. And perhaps thinking of yourself as the hero of your own story is going to help. And then the final piece is yourself equals positive, becoming and being your own best friend. Thanks so much for being with me here today. Once again, this video is coming out of the Personal Development AI and the questions that you've all asked me. The second link down below in the description is a link to a form where you can ask me questions and I can answer them on the channel for you using the Personal Development AI. If you're interested in getting direct access to this, any device that can access a web browser can have access to the Personal Development AI. You can click the first link down below in the description. It really helps me out and allows me to continue making these videos for you all. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.